Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying the Be the Difference podcast. If you are, I got a huge favor to ask. Go on to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review for us. It helps us immensely with algorithms and growth because we grow completely by word of mouth, organically. That's why there are no ads. Also, feel free to share this content with somebody you think might get value out of it. Last, if you don't know, I also do coaching to help people become the best version of themselves, starting with physical fitness, going all the way through mindset, sales, and leadership. If you're interested in learning more, there's going to be a link in the description of the podcast. You can schedule a time. It's a free assessment. All I'm going to do is have a conversation with you and see if I can even help you. I look forward to speaking to all of you. Continue to enjoy the podcast, and remember to always be the difference. What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. We bring on guest speakers. Today, I bring to you from the future, Miss Mary Henderson. Mary, how are you?
How you doing, Greg? I am the future. That's exactly right.
Yeah. We were actually talking backstage, and she's in Melbourne, and
Yes.
she was like, "It's actually tomorrow for me, so I'm in the future." So I was like, "What happened?"
Anyway, we just create our own reality, so it doesn't matter what's happening in the outside world anyway, right?
Exactly. That's kind of the point. It's what everyone does. So why
That's
not?
right. Exactly.
So, for those of you that don't know who Mary is a transformational leader and an internationally recognized personal branding and online business specialist. Mary helps industry experts systematize, digitalize, and commercialize their knowledge, wisdom, and skills into scalable and profitable online businesses and a brand so they become an authority in their niche or industry. Mary has 22 years of experience building 7 and 8-figure businesses and building high performance sales teams in the IT sector, and 15 years delivering online solutions for large and small businesses. She's been featured in many publications and is regarded as a thought leader in the digital sector. Mary's point of difference is her personal branding technology, an SaaS platform that has the ability to define a person's brand essence with precision that can be applied across all communication touchpoints. That's actually pretty amazing. It sounds pretty dope. I want to dig in on that. Mary is also the founder and publisher of Industry Expert Magazine. When you engage Mary, you access 40,000 plus hours of experience, knowledge, and wisdom in personal branding, client profiling, lead generation strategies, online program development, sales leadership, content development, and digital acumen. Mary embraces technology and social media in a big way, and her followers are growing daily. Mary's a heart-centered, compassionate, and tenacious entrepreneur who thrives on human transformation and witnessing people fulfill their dreams. That is amazing, Mary. I'm excited to have this conversation, especially
Where
when
do
it
we
comes to
start?
branding. So let's dig in. Let's
Let's
dig
go.
in. So I'm super interested in your SAS platform. Let's just start there.
Well,
I just want to kind of dig in on that and find out about it, like how it works.
okay, awesome. Well, they say you can take the tech out of the girl, but you can't take the tech. You can take the girl out of tech. You can't take the tech out of girl. Because I had a software company for many years. I come from the tech industry, and like, a lot of people fear technology. Now we're in the AI age, and everyone's kind of like, "Oh my god, I'm going to lose my job," blah blah blah. But I see technology as a way to enhance our businesses and our lives. Actually,
Mm.
um, when I started my coaching business full time after I left my software company, I really knew that this is the path I wanted to go down. I wanted to go down coaching. I didn't know that personal branding and working with industry experts and pulling all of their internal inventory out of them, and converting that into a business was going to be my vocation. It didn't look like that back then. We can touch on that later on if you want as well. But what I recognized when I started working with people as a coach is that everyone's full of information. Everyone's full of experience knowledge and experience skills. There's so much creativity locked up in people. There is an amazing story that is like just locked, and I felt like I couldn't unlock it, just there wasn't enough time to unlock it just through language, just by asking lots of questions, even though I do that as part of my process. And I thought, how could I create how could I use technology to extract the information that I need to create that foundational level of their brand based on the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Because, a lot of people, when I started working with people in the branding space, a lot of people they always say, "Oh, I aspire to be like Oprah or Amy Porterfield or Marie Forleo or Tony Robbins." And I'm like, "I don't know how to make you like that." Like, they've got their own persona, they've got their own natural gifts and natural talents, and you've got yours as well. We need to work with you, not who you aspire to be. And so when you can pull out all of those attributes out of a human being, that is based on who they are in their natural state of being, you have a very, very, very different picture. But you also have data in your hands that is the truth. And then I can work with that information and build that solid foundation. So the SaaS platform that we've built, it does exactly that. They log in, they go through a series of applications. They're essentially rating themselves, and we're asking very specific questions. And the end result just spits out, an outcome data. There's a point system. I can see what their archetype is like. There's so much information there, and we use that to then build or define the brand essence of that individual. And it's just been unbelievably beneficial because you can't hide from the truth, right? Like, once you've got the truth, that's it. That's you.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Self-actualization.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, it's not like they could say, "Oh, but, I forgot to add in that my core gift is X." You're like, "Well, how could you forget that your core gift is X if it's not a part of you?" Like, you should not be able to forget that. That's who you are.
Yeah.
And so for me, personal branding really comes down to defining who an individual is in their natural state of being. It's very important to get it to that finite level.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like also people, like you said, everyone's got their own natural abilities and talents and gifts, but a lot of times it's hard for them to verbalize it.
Yes.
It's really hard for them to say, "Hey, this is who I am," because they haven't had that self-actualization piece or that
Yes.
inner work. And so they resonate with other people, like other people that are thought leaders or famous, like you said, like Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey. They resonate so heavily with what they say, and they're like, "Oh,
Mm.
I'm just like that person." It's like, well, no, you resonate with their message,
Uh-huh.
but you still have a unique message within you.
Oh my God, absolutely. And I think also within that personal branding component, also we need to look at, outside of all of those attributes, your natural gifts, your natural talents, your passions,
Mhm.
your value system, all of those wonderful things. But in that also lives your learned knowledge, your learned skills. These are critical elements, as part in terms of your personal brand, because then we need to define, okay, based on all of that information and based on that background story, what complex problem can you actually solve? And who is it that you can actually serve, and what is it that you can actually promise? See, that's the next layer down. So once you've got your data, then you go to the next level, and that's really defining, who you are, what is it that you can do, who is it that you can serve, what problem can you solve, and most importantly, what can you promise?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what do people, because it seems like you have the branding aspect, and then later on in your bio it talks about helping people with client profiling, lead generation, stuff like that. Have you found that first piece of branding helps all these other pieces, helps with lead generation, helps them to find their niche, helps them to profile the perfect client, that ideal client avatar, etc., once they have their brand and like who they are?
That is such an awesome question, and I love that question because to me, lead generation is the effect of dialing in your branding, and not just dialing in your branding, but really understanding what does my solution actually look like, and how do I actually deliver the promise? And then we've got to go even another layer, and that is, how do I create ecstatic brand experiences so that every person in the external world that touches my brand actually has an experience. And it's not just, content that we're pushing down people's throats. It's just like, oh, here's a free masterclass, and I'll just dumb you down because and use scarcity tactics to make you feel like you're dumb and stupid. Those days are actually gone. Like, that is dumb and stupid, actually doing that as a business owner, especially as a coach. What
Yeah.
we need to do is we need to look at it completely through a completely different lens. First of all, the consumer is really smart, super smart, in fact.
Yeah.
They're so educated. We're not in an information economy. We're an information age. We're actually in the wisdom economy. And we can talk about that too if you want to. But the thing is that when we're talking to a prospect, our future client, they've already done their due diligence, Greg. They've already done their research. Why am I speaking at them like they're a child? Like, how foolish am I to believe that, I am so self righteous and I know everything and that person really needs me? That is just the wrong way to go about doing it. But if I give that person an experience across all of my digital touch points, I'm going to start to make that person feel me and get to know me, get to love me, that eventually leads to get to buy me. So you can see that just by me painting this picture, that the lead generation is the last piece of the puzzle. It cannot be the first piece. And where do most people go, Greg?
Lead
Lead
generation.
generation.
Yeah. They're trying
Exactly.
they're trying to run before they crawl.
Exactly. And if you
Yeah.
haven't
The
got
cart
your
before the horse.
messaging Exactly. If you haven't got your messaging dialed in, how do you start a conversation with the prospects? Because I don't know how to do that. But if I have my messaging and my branding dialed in, I know who I am. I know my target audience. I know the language that they use when they speak to their friends and their family over a cup of coffee. I understand how to start a conversation from a like minded zone. When I can get to that point, then I can create content that pulls them into my ecosystem so we can continue the dialogue. And the sale eventually comes. What we have to think about in today's economy is that it's not like it used to be 10 years ago when you could just put out a Facebook ad, get them into your funnel, get them into a free webinar and sell them into some, coaching program that just spits out even
It's been
more information.
oversaturated.
That's right, Greg. That's
It's
gone.
been
Forget that.
oversaturated, yeah.
100%. And have you seen that all those seven-figure gurus, they're no longer in business?
Yeah.
Why? Because none of them could deliver the transformation. They could only deliver information. So we're not in that's gone. So in people our clients don't want any more information. They want hardcore transformation, and they will pay whatever it takes to reduce the pain or enhance their life. Period. So when we get to lead generation, we need to have these type of conversations, just as you and I are talking, Greg, exactly
Mm,
the same.
mm.
And people haven't understood that messaging and writing content is a critical part of lead generation.
I
Yeah.
wanted you to break out a little bit what you mean about, and I understand what you're saying, but we're in an age of wisdom.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Starving for wisdom.
I just think that we're okay. Let's just put it all into context. Look at our world today. Just
Yeah.
start there. Everything's chaotic. Everything's in a crisis. Everything's crazy, psychotic. Whichever way you turn, there's just crazy land everywhere. And even the notions and the ideas and the ideologies are just weird, right? So you think about this for a moment. At some point, there's going to be a breakdown in society because even just what we see, just visually, across all different sectors, across all different industries, including the school system, governments, corporations, these systems, ideologies at some point are going to break down. So, how do we fix a crisis? Any crisis, small, big, nano, micro, macro, it doesn't matter. How do we actually fix a crisis? Do we call the Instagram influencer who has 1 million followers to the boardroom table to fix a crisis? Let's say there's a major emergency in California, there's a fire. Who are we going to call the Instagram influencer to help solve that problem? Or are we actually going to call a serial expert, industry expert who actually understands how to specifically solve an emergency when it's specifically a fire emergency. Who will you call? Think about it. So we're worshiping, we're in a society that worships the ego, but the ego has one destination, self-destruction, and period. That's it. That's the end goal of worshiping the ego. So all these people who want to be famous and get rich quick and get famous quick and get insta famous, all of these people have an end of life at some point, because you can't solve complex problems with a million followers. It ain't going to happen. It doesn't even bring food on the table. So let's look at the other side of the coin. When we're in a crisis, which we are, the people that can solve those problems in today's economy are people who are the holders of wisdom. Why? Because wisdom is the truth. It's learned knowledge, it's learned skill, it's repetition on overdrive. Like, it's these are the people that have learned these skills, implemented the knowledge over and over and over and over again, had have experienced every scenario that could possibly exist, and 20 years later, they can look at a scenario, at a crisis, and say, I know exactly how to fix that. I know exactly how to been there, done that 20 times before. Here's the process. Here's the methodology. Here's the system. Here's how we implement it. This is the team we need. Let's go. This is why we're in the economy, in the wisdom economy. Just going back to coaching now, and this is the other side of the coin. So we've got global problems, but then we've got individual problems, and that is people who are genuinely seeking coaches and mentors. And as I said before, those people are no longer willing to pay for information just because I want to be seen with Guru Bob Coach, who's just pushing this. Look, I made 7 figures this month. Look at my Ferrari and my Rolls Royce. People actually don't want that anymore. I can tell you now. People are actually sickened by it, because it's not the ultimate goal for the people. For example, I work with industry experts. Their goal is not, oh my God, can I make 7 figures a month? Their goal is, how can I solve complex problems in the world, raise consciousness in the world, and make the world a better place? That's actually their driver. And the money is the effect of that. See the difference? So people that are looking for mentors and coaches, they don't want coaches that are pushing information. They want coaches that can deliver outcome, results, and transformation. And who can do that? People who hold wisdom. You have to have the wisdom in order to deliver the transformation, because you're coming from a much, much, much deeper place than reading 3 textbooks.
Absolutely. And there's a quote that Tony Robbins says that we're drowning in information, but we're starving for wisdom. And it's so
There you go.
true. It's so
There
true.
you go.
So just for the audience, this is something I've spoke on here pretty recently, which was, if you look at, like, when I started in insurance and when I started doing digital leads, Facebook leads kind of got big around 2018. That was when they started like
Mhm.
hitting the market,
Yes.
started getting big. And in 2018, I could get a final expense digital lead for $15. Now it's hard to press to find it for $40. That's
Mhm.
a 250% markup. And if
Yep.
you and it's only been it's only been 4 or 5 years since then. So if you look at it like that, like the increase that's happened, and it's only going to get worse, because you got to think these markets are so saturated, because back then there was like one or two lead companies. Now every Joe Schmo is like learning how to create leads because they see, oh, there's a market here, and they're saturating. It's more and more and more saturation of leads of
Yep.
these same exact ads saying the same exact thing or very similar
Yeah.
things in order to get people to sign up and then sell that lead.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's only so many people that are seeing that. Like, you got to look at like the actual market, who's actually clicking on them, the amount of people that are on that social media platform, etc. So, like, we are coming to a head where we have to find more genuine ways to connect with our ideal client avatar in order to understand what their problem is, communicate that, and what our unique solution is to that problem, and why we're uniquely qualified to help them with that problem. And
Amen.
and and doing that in an effective way. And so I've actually started transitioning to LinkedIn, to do for at least for my coaching business. So I do Instagram, but I don't do any ads. I just do organic posts. I talk about things I'm doing. I live the life that I preach, right? And I give valuable information when people reach out, and it's very. I also try to be very vulnerable in my posts and talk about challenges I've had, and it speaks to people. That vulnerability speaks to people, and they're like, "Man, I'm going through the same thing." And I'm like, "Hey, let's have a conversation, see if I can help." Like, I
I love
think I
it.
can help you through that. I've been through it. I know what it's like, right? And then on LinkedIn, kind of doing something similar, but really, I'm in the process of revamping my entire profile to attract people because I've never done lead generation on LinkedIn, but I know it's a very viable platform and people do it with a lot of businesses. And so I'm looking at that platform as well. And I've used LinkedIn for years. I just never really like tapped into the power of it, you
Well,
know?
you talk about, Facebook leads, going big in 2018. In 2019, I transitioned from Facebook, Greg, doing all of those ads, and I had an issue with funneling in all these leads, and the sales were single digits. Like, I couldn't get my head around, I've got 1,000 leads, but out of the 1,000, I'm getting, 5 sales. Like, that's just, even though, my program is what they would call premium or high ticket or whatever. It's not the point. All that effort for 5 sales, like, that's just ridiculous. Didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I transitioned to LinkedIn in 2019, Greg. And you talk about LinkedIn, and I want to share with you that when I started in LinkedIn, I had like zero profile, like no one knew who I was. And today I have a pretty massive following. I think I'm at 83,000 or something, but but I built a multiple six-figure business on the back of LinkedIn, all organic. Till this day, LinkedIn is still my go to platform. And you're absolutely 100% accurate in saying that LinkedIn is a much more um, mature platform from the standpoint of your target audience have already done their due diligence. That's why I love it. So it doesn't cost me for an ad. I'm still making the same amount of sales, and I'm building my profile, my social currency,
Mm.
and people go to LinkedIn to check me out. They can see that I'm the real deal. Like, I exist. I've got lots of content, big following, and it's just such a clean platform. You don't get all of these smoky mirrors. It's just black and white. Your followers either love you, they don't like you. I mean, it's a different mindset. So you're actually, I believe, doing the right thing by putting a lot of your focus on LinkedIn. There's still massive opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And this is within the last couple of weeks. I started like that's 2 weeks,
Great.
Um, and it's been gnawing and kind of like nagging in the back of my mind. Like,
Mm.
there's got to be something more that I can do on LinkedIn because it's
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
a viable platform. It's just that I've never. It's not like an ad based or run platform.
No.
I think that's the difference. I think between ads is that people just want to throw money at the problem. Like, hey, just run an ad and like I'll get in front of clients, right? Instead of saying, no, how about we just do the work to generate
Yes.
content to attract those people that we're trying to speak to and
Mhm.
do it consistently and do that work in order to come and showcase we have the experiential knowledge in order to help you, right?
Yes.
And so
Exactly.
I've been posting. I have a lot of posts on LinkedIn, but my profile's basically like the language and the verbiage in it is not set up appropriately. So I'm actually working on that.
Right.
And when it comes to LinkedIn, what would you recommend somebody like is starting? You know,
Yes.
what are some recommendations that you'd have to for a business? Like for me, I'm doing
Mm.
coaching. We'll say for coaching.
I think that the first thing on LinkedIn is that the profile really is priority. I can't stress that enough. Never forget that notion that people will make a judgment on you in the first 5 seconds. That is so true. Doesn't matter whether it's your website, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook, but they do actually it creates an impression, and they either will continue to follow you, or they'll be like, yeah, this guy's not the real deal. So the profile is really critical. The header, the title, your story, your experience section, you really, LinkedIn place a lot of emphasis on that. So I would actually start there. The second thing about LinkedIn is that there's two sides to the coin. The first side is your content, and the second part is who are you connecting with. And actually, there's a third part. So there's your content, there's who are you connecting with, and who are you engage. What posts are you engaging on, right? So it is an engagement platform, and the algorithm places a lot of emphasis on engagement, engaging in other people's posts. So those three things need to be not necessarily in that order, but they must be adhered to on a week on week basis. The more you engage, the more they're going to love you, as in the algorithm, and it's going to actually then push your content to more people who follow you, which is the whole idea.
Mhm.
And from a content standpoint, Greg, I'm a bit like you. I'm very much around. I love talking about things that I'm deeply, deeply, deeply passionate about. Um, and it doesn't resonate with everybody, but I'm not looking for everybody. I just want my target audience to just I'm just targeting my audience, and that's it. Anyone outside of that, I don't really care, because I just want to be talking to industry experts. That's my little square. And anyone outside of that that doesn't like my content, I'm okay with that. But I do talk about the things that are very much based around my area of expertise, things that I stand for, things that I believe in, observations, and I think you've got to mix up your content on LinkedIn as well. It's not just text. It needs to be, I would suggest mixing it up with a bit of video, maybe some slide shares, just text on its own, text and image. Just mix it up, because it actually does pay, dividends in the end. And people do like different type of content, especially when you start getting a following. You'll start to get people, like they say with me. Oh, whenever I see the hot pink in my feed, I know I'm in for a real treat. That this is the feedback I get, because my branding colors are hot pink. By the way, I'm not wearing hot pink for our podcast interview today, just in
Should
case.
be.
I just thought I feel like pink today. But the point being is that, like, it really is, Greg, about owning your piece of real estate on LinkedIn. And I want to just remind you and everyone else. LinkedIn have 850 million members. Facebook has 3.5 billion. Only 1 to 3% of those members, 850 million on LinkedIn, create content. 1 to 3%, Greg, create content out of the 850 million. So if
So
you
this is a blue ocean.
that's what I'm saying. It's still a blue ocean. So
Uh,
you go out there, baby. You put the stake in the ground and say, I'm going to be known for this, and own it. Completely own it. And I promise you, if you do it, right, and in just taking that little bit of a wisdom nugget that I've just given everybody, if you could just implement those, you will do very well.
yeah, absolutely. How do you target, or how do you find your niche audience to where you can either connect with them or get your stuff in front of them, or find posts or groups where they're at and engage in posts that are in those groups? Like,
I
what are
think
your
that this,
strategies for that?
yeah.
Do you even have a strategy?
Absolutely. I think that the key on LinkedIn is to make sure that you're always aligning yourself with other people who are very successful on LinkedIn, that potentially are also talking to the same audience that you're trying to target.
Yeah,
So look at those first. And I spent a lot of time when I first started on LinkedIn really understanding who are the people that are already talking to my target audience, and really looked at their content. Like, there's a it's almost like a scientist, and you're reverse engineering. So that's the key word I want to position here. We have to learn how to reverse engineer. I mean, I can look at somebody's, I can look at my competitor, and I can reverse engineer their entire funnel from beginning to end in micro detail. Of course, my brain thinks in zeros and ones. I am like an algorithm. So I already think like that, but it's so beneficial
Yeah.
because when you can reverse engineer and you grab all of those little micro bits, believe you me, that's going to take you a long way. Now, I'm not saying here we're copying, we're just understanding the mindset of your competitor. If they're successful, why reinvent the wheel? Have a look at what they're doing and either mirror the flow, not the content, not the language, not the tone, not the voice. We have to have our own tone and voice and language, but just look at the flow. So I would be looking at my competitors and reverse engineering that. And of course, targeting people. You're connecting, you have to connect with people on LinkedIn. Just think of LinkedIn like a virtual networking hub. It's the only way I can describe it. So when you're at a networking event, you don't sit in the corner, do you? And you just walk in and you're like, oh my God, like I'm frozen. If you are frozen, then social media or networking not for you anyway. But you seem to me like a very personable, open guy. So, you would go on LinkedIn and you'd be like, okay, where are my peeps? Like, how am I going to connect? Where are they? Who are they? So if you start off with your competitors and have a look at who's commenting on their posts, have a look at the people who are commenting, and you can pretty much figure out very quickly, oh, maybe these are my peeps as well. So start targeting those people very strategically and deliberately. Now, another two very important words on LinkedIn: strategic and deliberate. Don't waste an opportunity on LinkedIn by posting things about your cat doing somersaults. Who cares?
Yeah, it's true.
Let me just say that again. Who cares? No one cares about your little kid starting school on their first day unless, Greg, it's in context with what you do. If you're telling a story and it leads to what you do, amazing. But if you're just saying, here's Johnny starting his first day of school, mummy's very, very sad and, can't let go. I actually don't care. It means it's what a wasted opportunity. Or so many people
And you've
get on
also
LinkedIn.
lost social currency. If your niche does watch that, they're gonna be like, man, this person does not, and they're not gonna watch any more of your content.
Well, the other
Or
thing is
they'll be less likely to.
that's exactly right. But the other problem that I see all the time is, people get on their mobile phone and they're like, "Hey, Johnny, just challenged me to, get on a live, and this is my first video, and as you can see, this is my where I live, and this is my beach," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, at least script it and read a script. I'd rather you do that than actually waste 3 minutes of time that nobody's going to watch." So we have to understand one thing. What are we all fighting for on social media? Attention, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't grab my attention in the first 3 seconds, you've just lost the opportunity. So, what does that mean? The most important thing on any social media, but LinkedIn in particular, are your first two lines. You've got to pull me into your life. You've got to pull me into your world. You have to start that conversation with me from a like minded zone so we can go on a journey together. Because remember, if you're the coach, really, you need to act as their guide. They've just started their hero's journey. You're way ahead. So, if they're looking for a guide, how do you actually hold their hand and say, come on, I'm going to show you the path?
Yeah. Let me be your Sherpa. Let's
You
go.
got it. Exactly. That's true, though. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I see it. 100%.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's a good because I'm trying to my mind's racing and thinking about who could I be following and like making comments on their posts or like thought I
Yes,
always felt like because it almost builds affinity with people that also follow that post. And if they like it or they comment, because then they'll see your comment or they get
yes,
notified of it, they may watch it, they may look at it.
yes.
And you can basically make a post within a post just by making a comment on a post.
Absolutely.
And people see it, if it's very thoughtful and it's like thought provoking,
Mhm.
they'll be like, "Oh man, that was actually pretty smart," or "This that I like the way that guy thinks." Then they go
Yes,
look,
yes.
and now you've kind of created an affinity with this person. They follow you. Now you post something, they get notified that because they already commented or they liked a response you did on a post. They followed you. Now you know, now you have somebody else that's kind of looking at you and looking into you. So, uh,
Which is why your profile is really important. You've
yeah,
just you've just answered your own question.
yeah. I gotta get on that. I'll be doing that the next couple days and like really trying to find the right verbiage to get the point across, I guess. Um, so Man, this has been a great conversation, by the way. I like digging into this because this is
Yeah,
like
go
this
for
it
it.
fascinates me. Um, when it comes to personal branding, what are some and I'll set it up real quick. Um, you know, what I found, and you can give some pointers, some tips, or even disagree with me if I is when it comes to personal branding, is it's all about authenticity. It's like just being you, right? And unapologetically. But when you understand your niche audience, is you're not trying to attract everybody. And I think that's what most people get hung up on, is they're like, well, my product or service can fit for everybody, and they want to sell to everybody. So then they don't want to be so authentic to where it might turn some other people away.
Right.
But for me, that's very freeing, because then it's like the people
Mm,
that do get drawn in by that, it's like, well, they're my niche. And it
mm,
makes me working with them almost effortless, because we understand each other. I know I have a product or service I can help them with. They know I can help them. They've done some research, etc. So I always feel like that when it comes to personal branding, the first and key piece is the authentic messaging and the authentic representation of who you are and what you can do.
mm.
Aside from that, what are some strategies or hints, tips to, like, hey, when you go to do personal branding, because a lot of people that they don't understand, like, they've heard it. This is almost like becoming like a saying nowadays, but they don't understand how to
Yeah,
brand themselves.
you're absolutely right. And I think that when you talk about authenticity, I probably look at it from a completely different, well, not a completely, but through a different lens. And that is that I feel that when I work with people, I activate who they truly are at a soul level. That's what I'm interested in, which
Mm,
is why I go so deep, Greg, because if I can help activate somebody's true self, they're going to be a shining light in the world. Okay. That's really important that we actually understand this. Um, and and therefore they are authentic. Okay, so we're not trying to be authentic, we already are authentic. Everyone has their own thumbprint, everyone has their own DNA print, everyone has their own unique soul print, so we already are unique and authentic to begin with. So that's the first thing.
mm,
What I like to do is I like to unpack people and what is lying dormant inside of them and really activate that. And it's a combination of a lot of things. It's not just my learned knowledge and my learned skill set, but it truly is, what are my natural gifts? What are my natural talents? What are my core values? Am I living by those core values every day? I can tell you 99% of people say, oh, my value is truth and love and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, but how can you live truth and love if you're self sabotaging every day? So you're not living your values. That's not the truth.
yeah,
Right. So you see, we've got to really get to the core. We need to unpack the individual, but actually then get to the core and say, well, are you truly living who you truly are? And the answer is always no. Always, always. I've never met anyone that's like, oh my God, like this person is like next level. Um, so, and in terms of actually showing up fully themselves every day, because what we do is we're politically correct. We want to make sure everyone else is comfortable. We don't rock the boat. This is why I say to everybody, if you're having a dinner party, don't invite me if you want me to be politically correct, because that ain't gonna happen, right? Because I don't want to hold back who I truly am. I have views, I have opinions, I have experiences, I have my own wisdom. I want to share that.
yeah,
It doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree. I should be allowed. You should be allowed to express who you truly are, regardless whether I agree with your little box or not. Doesn't matter.
yeah.
So, so personal branding is actually very special in that, from that standpoint, because when I can see who I truly am, for me, there's transformation immediately there. So when I work with people, they're like, oh my God, like I've been hiding all of that. So you can see just by me just sharing those attributes, just your natural gifts, your natural talents, your passions, what you stand for, your core values. These are things that people go, oh yeah, it's there, like who cares? But it actually really does matter. Then we go down to the next layer and it's like, okay, so what is your learned knowledge and your learned experience? Let's unpack that. What does it actually look like in terms of a solution, how can we take all of that and look at that and merge all of those attributes together to actually come up with a solution that can solve a complex problem. Now, here's where I have an issue with the niche. None of my clients look for a niche. It's not necessary to look for a niche. When you come from a place of experience, knowledge, and skill set, you're sitting on a lot of intellectual currency. We're talking 10, 20, 30, 40 hours, 1,000 hours of intellectual currency. That's a lot of experience. So they already know that they can solve a complex problem, and they already know who needs that complex problem solved. So don't worry about boxing yourself in a niche. However, it is important to be very clear on the complex problem you can solve and the solution and the promise that you can deliver. This is the key, because then anyone that needs that problem solved and that is looking for that transformation or those results, it can be anyone, not stuck in a niche, anyone that needs that problem solved can come to you. But you're the carrier of the wisdom. You know how to solve that problem, and you know how to deliver a transformational outcomes and results for that matter.
Mhm.
And that for me is the foundation of your brand, because once you can define that, then you don't have to pigeonhole yourself in a little box and say, oh, this is my little niche. Niche to me is digital marketing talk. I don't like that language, because digital marketers have set the foundation of what coaching looks like and the language that we use. And I want to challenge that language and use much more sophisticated language and say, listen, forget the niche, just focus on the problem that you can solve and the outcome that you can deliver. Most importantly, the transformation. And it doesn't matter who it is that needs that problem solved, they are your client. What are you going to do? You're going to say, no, sorry, because you don't work in the tech, in the software niche, I can't help you. Like, you have to work in that niche. Instead of saying, I don't care who you are, but if you need that problem solved, I'm your person. You see, it's a much more expansive. It's a much bigger version of you. The other thing, Greg, I want to just mention here, and this is really critical as well. I work with a lot of energetics in my work. I've spent a lot of years, being mentored by some of the most amazing people in the quantum physics field, professors in philosophy, experts in the emotional body, like all of that stuff. And one thing that I've recognized in my work is that, you know, we have to also be, we have to embody that version of us. So when we're working on a brand, you literally have to become the brand. You have to
Yeah.
fully embody that version of you and eat, breathe, and sleep it, because that is you. That's why I said before, being politically correct and playing in the safety zone to please everybody else, you ain't going to build a brand like that. It's not going to happen. It will not work. You will not be believable. You will not be trustable, and people will move away from you rather than you pulling people toward you. So this is a really important part of this process. The embodiment of what I'm creating, of what I am becoming, is up to us. And it's a really important part of the branding process, so that when we show up, I am Mary when I'm showing up. I'm not who Mary aspires to be like. I'm 100% Mary. You're either going to like me, you're going to love me, or you're going to hate me. Either one is right.
No matter which one you pick.
That's it.
I love this. Thank you so much for breaking that down. It makes a lot of sense. And what I want to kind of caveat or add to that is that part of the last point that you did was embodying it is, something I talk about is like you have to lead yourself first. Because if you try to say that you've been through something, you help somebody through something, that's like having the therapist that's trying to walk you through marital
Yep.
problems, and
Hmm.
they've had 3 divorces,
Yeah.
and it's like, are they really the best equipped just because they have a degree? Is and
Correct.
like, are they really the best equipped to help you? And the answer is probably not, right?
Mm.
It's going to be the person that's actually successfully went through the challenges and then lives the life that
Yes.
they say that they live. You have to lead
Yes.
yourself first.
Hmm.
And people for what however you want to look at your potential clientele, okay, the population, people, they're pretty smart, and they
Yes.
can and people can sniff out a bullshitter real quick.
Mhm.
If you're saying one thing, and you know what? People love if it to call out others. If it's just like, hey, you said you don't do this, there you are, and then just people love to talk about negativity and bring people down off of a high
Yes.
horse real quick. And if you're like, hey, like for instance, like I do fitness mindset, uh
Yes.
inspire, like business coaching, and a lot of it is centered around daily disciplines,
Mhm.
around physical fitness, like staying on my diet. I don't drink. I don't go out and party. Like I have all these data. This was that have had massive impacts in other areas of my life. I can't then go out and go drinking, right?
No.
Which I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me, right?
Mm.
Like I've divorced that part of myself, and I battled depression. I went through a lot of things that that alcohol was a catalyst of, that I
Mhm.
realized, like, I got to get this out of my life, right? So you can't be a person be like, oh yeah, you got to get alcohol out of your life because doing this, that, the other, and then you're going out and you have all these pictures. You're like, oh look, we're at Cabo, and you're holding a drink. It doesn't work, right? It's like people will see it, they'll find it, and they'll be like, hey man, this person's full of shit.
It's so
So
true.
you just can't do it, right? So um lead yourself first. Lead yourself first. Don't try to be something that you're not going to be, and don't try to do something that you feel, well, this other person's doing it and they're having success, so I'm going to do it too, right? That's not your unique talent. which
No.
which obviously you can go link up with Mary and go do her program, and she'll tell you what your personal brand, your inside talents are, and what your messaging should be, that's uniquely you.
Greg, I want to just add one thing to that as well. Outside of the discipline, which I absolutely agree with you 100%, is also the discipline of understanding the role that the mind and your body play, like understanding what the mind really is and how it plays tricks on us, and understanding how emotions are, wreak havoc in our life. And so when we can understand that connection, and again, this is discipline of understanding, what it takes to be the best version of yourself, to really truly understand oneself, whether you want to call it your spiritual journey or like self mastery. It doesn't matter what label you give it.
Yeah,
But for me, this has been a massive discipline in my life, is that really, really understanding, as best as I can through the mentorship that I've had, the role of my mind and the role of the emotions, and how to actually transcend those out of my ecosystem, my body, my mind, my energy field, and really, really work through it, because it impacts your life dramatically, either the positive or the negative. And
absolutely.
I feel, Greg, that the majority of humanity, I'm talking like 95%, are in that lower realm, in that vibratory
Lower
frequency.
vibrational pattern, yeah.
Yes,
They're
that's
they're
right.
not they're not in the present being.
No, not
They're
at
not
all, and they aren't disciplined, to your
yeah,
point, right? So
yeah.
there's no discipline in myself, there's no discipline in my choices, there's no discipline in my mind, and there's no discipline in my emotional state. So they're running on this hamster wheel, right? Goes round and round and round, and they never get off the hamster wheel. And when you get off the hamster wheel, it seems like, your life goes into, chaos. But it's not really. It's your life reorganizing yourself, because in chaos is where the truth lies,
There's all
and
that
that's where,
clarity.
yes, clarity, harmony, opportunity, abundance, prosperity. It's in the chaos. And so, yeah, so I just wanted to add that, because I think that you're absolutely right. Discipline is such an important word. I mean, we could talk about that, for hours.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
something that I'm very interested in as well. And I think that that's the epicenter, even in the work that I do. The discipline of embodying who you are takes a lot out of you, because it's focus.
That's very, The Power of Now by Eckhart
Mhm,
Tolle. It's very
mhm.
I just finished reading that book about a week and a half ago. Great
Yeah.
book, by the way. If you haven't read it, you need to. For the audience listening, go check out that is a mind-altering, just phenomenal book. Eckhart Tolle is brilliant, man. Another good book is Mickey Singer's The Surrender Experiment. I've heard that The
Yeah,
Untethered Soul
I
is
love
really
that.
good. Uh,
Yeah, I've read all of those books. They're amazing.
yeah,
Yes, the Untethered Soul's absolutely gorgeous as
I
well.
need to read that
Oh,
next.
you'll love that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm actually right now reading. I just got Lewis Howes, the Greatness Mindset book. So just started that. Um, Mary, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. If anyone wants to learn more about your coaching, about your programs, about your personal branding, they just want to learn from you or follow you. They want to kind of like learn from afar. However, what's the best place to connect with you on?
Oh my God. Well, LinkedIn's a great place. So just
Obviously.
connect with me on LinkedIn, obviously, exactly at Mary Henderson Coaching. Connect with me on my personal Facebook page, Mary Henderson Coaching. Please email me. Feel free to email and connect with me, ask questions, Mary at maryhendersoncoaching.com, or just go to my website, maryhendersoncoaching.com.
Okay. Awesome. And the last question I ask every single guest is, you have the opportunity to sit with, learn from, have a conversation with, break bread with three individuals, anyone in history, alive or deceased. Who would those three be and why?
It would definitely be Socrates, number one,
Oh,
because
that's a good one.
well, because
I knew you
I'm
would pick a philosopher. I knew you would pick a philosopher.
well, also my heritage is Greek, so of course, I would want to just sit with Socrates and go, talk to me about the mystery schools. I want to know everything that you guys spoke about. So I'm interested in all of that symbolism and
Yeah.
sacred geometry, all that sort of stuff. I think Carl Jung definitely is somebody that I would just like, oh my God, love to spend as much time as possible and get in his head. And Steve Jobs.
He's a go to.
Yeah, I would just that would be like, yes, something
Fun,
that I would
fun
love to.
fact, Steve Jobs and I are both ENTPs. Just saying.
Well, what can I say? I'm in the right energy field then, aren't I?
Yeah, yeah. He was very misunderstood, but
Oh, he was
he was a
amazing.
revolutionary
Oh,
in what he did, even in the from the beginning.
but Greg, that's an example of somebody who had the capacity and understood how to activate his creative zone. See the
Mhm.
difference? This is huge. Anyone can access that. We just haven't been taught how to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's purposeful for why we haven't been taught. Makes you easily
Absolutely.
controlled.
Of
Makes
course.
makes you
Of
really
course.
easily controlled.
Hello. That's what I'm saying, like, the world's in chaos. Wakey, wakey.
Yeah. Here's the thing is that there's a book, there's a really great book, really short. Anyone can read it. I read it actually in a day. It's called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Waddle. I don't know if you've ever read it.
No.
It's really good. It's really good. It's actually it is the book that actually inspired The Secret.
Oh.
Inspired. It was written a long time ago. It was written like back
Yes,
in the 40s or 30s or something.
yes.
Anywho, um, in it he talks about how you can basically how to acquire wealth and how to attract it into your life, and basically how everything in the world all comes from the same source, from the same
Mhm,
energy.
mhm,
Everything.
mhm.
People, things, object, money, wealth, success, it's all
Yes,
from the same source. And
yes.
once you've understood that and you accept it and you understand that you can attract it to you, then you realize that it's a never-ending source. That
Can I
there is no there's no
there's no other way.
it's
Let me
all
give you
abundance.
let me give you an analogy on that, which I think will be a great closing. I heard this once and I just use it all the time. Think of, people say, what's the difference between your soul, spirit, and God, the creator? Okay. Think of an ocean as the creator, God, whatever, whoever you want, whatever label you give that. So the ocean is the creator. I grab a glass and I dip it into the ocean and I get a glass out of the ocean, which is my spirit.
Mhm.
And then in that glass of water, I'm going to drop in some colors like yellow and pink and white and drop some, confetti in there or some glitter, whatever. And all of that beauty, that uniqueness in that glass of water, that's my soul.
Yeah, that's good.
Isn't that awesome?
I love that. I heard something the other day that was about the comparison of the body and the soul. and it was that your body, it's not that your body has a soul, it's that your soul has a body.
That's correct. That's
A-
exactly right.
like
Yes.
we are eternal. We're just
Yes.
utilizing this as the vehicle for our soul, but the soul come first.
100%.
And s-
Protect your soul and your mind at all costs.
yeah.
This is what I say all the time,
And
every day.
it shows about energy.
Yes,
It really taps into energy, how we're all
yes,
connected, we're all
yes,
equal, and hey, that's
yes,
the thing is that we're like, everybody has the same opportunity, everyone can
yes,
do the same thing. It's just
yes,
tapping into removing those limiting beliefs,
yes,
tapping into the source, being more present in the now, and
yes,
not looking at the past or the future so much,
yes,
but really
yes.
being present, and man, some magical things can happen in your life.
Well, this is why we need to turn the TV off and permanently. Like, I don't have a TV in my home and haven't put it on since 2012. So 11 years, it's like it's the best thing I ever did. My kids have no concept of cartoons, superheroes, and things like that. They just have no idea. So it's just the best thing you can do for your soul, for your mind, and for your extended family because, they're not infiltrated in all of that limitation.
Mhm.
They're free thinkers. And to your point, to be in the power of now is really the ability to tap into that vastness and take we've already tapped into it. We already have a glass of it. It's like, well, what are you doing with that uniqueness? Like, why is it still in the glass? Like, what are you going to do with it? And so we
Absolutely.
have to think of it from that standpoint.
I mean, even think about it like this, like, and you track the things that you want in order to go on the path that you're supposed to go. It's kind of like in the surrender experiment. Mickey Singer talks about
Yes.
how he just kind of like how life just sent him things. He was just like, it was like
Yes.
crazy. He was just like, dude, I
Yes.
want to do this or whatever, and it would
Mhm.
take him on a wide about path. I've been thinking about LinkedIn literally for about a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe,
Wow.
and now I'm having this conversation with you. I had a conversation with somebody else today on another podcast I recorded, and she was the one that was like, "Hey, let's look at your LinkedIn profile." And she literally helps people develop LinkedIn profiles that generate more attention and get leads. And I was like, "I've been thinking about this for about a week and I haven't really done it." And she was like, "Let's look." Now I'm having a conversation with you. Like, there's obviously something there because we could have
Oh
talked about
yeah.
anything, but
Yeah.
I happen it was just happened to be LinkedIn on both of those, and it just happened to be what I'm looking for in my business to generate it.
I
And
see.
now we're sitting here having this conversation, which I've got ideas that I'm going to go act on. I'm going to go start implementing, and then I'm going to use those to scale and build the business and do the things that like the purpose of what I feel I'm
Yes.
supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. No, you're on the right track, 100%. I can validate that. 100% you're on the right track.
I appreciate it.
So, thank you for having me, Greg. I really appreciate it too.
Thank you so much, Mary, for coming on and being part of the podcast. For those of you watching, you watch till now, I know you got value. I know you got some value because Mary was crushing it today. This is one of my favorites that I've recorded in quite a while. So you got some great. I'm just digging your energy, Mary. I'm loving it. So so if you watch this, do me a favor, go follow Mary on LinkedIn, go send her a message, start seeing her content, and if you need help with your branding, reach out to her. She can definitely help you. If you got value from this, the best thing that you can do, and I would be eternally grateful, and so would Mary, is to share this content with somebody else that can also get value from it, that can learn from it, and maybe even change their business with some of the strategies that Mary shares today, which were invaluable. Okay. It takes you 60 seconds to rate, review, subscribe, share, but it means the world to us. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.